From Chicago streets to the courts beat, Sal Scott Dan on the podcast seat. Bulls breaking news, talking stats and views. Every player, every play, we never lose. Horns over hoops, we're the Bulls troop. From game analysis to fan scoop.
What is good, Horniac Nation and Bulls fans worldwide, and welcome back to a very special edition of the Horns Over Hoops podcast. I am your host for the evening, Sal Bass. Daniel Gracie and the coach, Scotty B, have elected to have the day off today. But ladies and gentlemen, I know I say it a lot on this show that we have a special show, and I'm very excited for the show we're about to have. But this one is few and far between that, because this is by far one of the most exciting episodes we're going to be recording, because joining me now, you can see him there if you're watching on YouTube, is the man, the myth, the legend himself, the SeeRedUK legend, Neill. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to schedule a sit down with me. I was really excited to do this.
Absolutely. I'm not sure I'm worth awarding all those accolades and showering me with all that praise, but I appreciate you having me here, and I'm looking forward to having a good old chat about it.
No, all the accolades are well deserved. I mentioned it in this recent episode that's coming out tomorrow. We shouted you guys out at the beginning that SeeRedUK was always like a big brother show to us, because you were one of the first shows that we followed. You were one of the first shows that we were collabed with, and I feel like every step of the way through our journey, SeeRedUK was there. So it's only naturally that when I awoke, because of our time difference, I woke up to a title that you had created called SeeRedUK, and I was already like, oh no, what happened? Of course, I'm going to let you explain all that, but seeing that was very bittersweet. But just knowing that you're still in the content creating community and you're still pumping out work, it makes me feel a lot better, because as far as content creators for the Bulls community, I feel like you're top tier. You know, you show a genuine passion for the team and just the research that you do, and let's not even forget the staying up to all hours of the night watching the games because of the time difference. So well deserved. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I do like to dedicate too much of my time to this sort of thing. I'm sure my wife was sitting here, she'd tell you straight away that I definitely give too much time to it. But yeah, no, I love it. I've always loved the Chicago Bulls. Once I got involved with the content creation side of things, I absolutely love doing that as well. As for staying up late at night, I've been doing that for a very, very long time. I'm not a great sleeper at the best of times, so it kind of fits in with me anyway. And yeah, it doesn't matter where I go, I'll always love the Chicago Bulls. I'll always be a part of the fan side of things, no matter what.
That's a good segue here, because before we get into that, I like to start every show like I do every show with a bit we like to call Tuesday Trivia. It's not at all relevant to anything. It's just because the show comes out on Tuesday and trivia. So I have a special trivia question for you. And since you're UK based, this is a UK based Tuesday trivia question. You ready?
Go for it.
All right. No pressure at all. If you get it right, you get it right. If you get it wrong, we both learned something today. So being from the UK, we know that the NBA is a melting pot of just talent from all ends of the globe. You specifically being UK, I wanted to ask you, can you name the last UK-born NBA player to capture an NBA title?
Ooh, to capture a title. Geez, did any UK player ever capture a title? Did they?
They did, and actually recently.
Okay, so I was thinking back as far as maybe somebody like John Amici, but that's probably going back way too far. So more recently, Sochan, he didn't get a title, did he?
He did not. This is,
No.
I'll give you the year, 2019.
Go. Okay, all right. So who won the title in 2019? OG Anunoby?
Oh, yeah, right on. Right on the money. So OG Anunoby was the last UK born. He was born in London, England, won the NBA title in 2019, doing it for the Toronto Raptors. Outstanding. Yeah. Wow. That was pretty good.
So it took me a while to get there. I had to go around the houses to find it, but yeah, no, we got there.
Oh man, that was great. And kudos for a John Amici reference. That's
I'm showing my age there.
Me too, because I remember John Amici playing.
Yeah.
Well, again, welcome to the show. Thank you for sitting down with us. We have a few questions. I have a few questions about your earlier years before SeeRedUK. We'll dive into some SeeRedUK. We're going to talk about your current and future endeavors as well as play a few games. So if you're ready, let's dive right into it by starting out with the most loaded question of all. And that is, why the Chicago Bulls? Of course, being in the UK, you had 30 teams to pick from, and you elected to pick our lowly Bulls.
Well, back when I was picking the team that I wanted to follow, they were not the lowly Chicago Bulls. They were the absolutely on fire, about to start an absolute destiny-driven run. So, like, I first started following basketball in 1991, which was a really good time to start following the Chicago Bulls, of course. And like, I grew up in an area where we all played soccer. And there was a big green in my house. We'd all go out and we'd kick a ball around for days on end. And I didn't play basketball. I didn't watch basketball. I didn't really know too much about basketball apart from the fact it was non-contact. So all the soft kids played it because it was non-contact. And I managed to put a ball through a window and smash a window. And then a week later, one of the other lads that I used to play football with, he put a ball through the very same window again after it had just been repaired. So this woman went straight to the council. I don't blame her. And all ball games were stopped where we used to play out in the field. So I had to find something to replace it because, you know, I love sport. And a guy who lived a few doors down from me always played basketball. He had a hoop up and he used to be shooting around. So I went over to him and I kind of said to him, you know, can you show me how to play? So he did. And I was like, I kind of like this. It was useless. Couldn't shoot properly, couldn't dribble properly, but I loved the idea of the game. And so he showed me some video footage. It was a mixed, you know, the old video mixtapes. And he was a Lakers fan, so he was trying to push me towards Magic Johnson and trying to be a Lakers fan. But of course, I'm stubborn. So the more he was pushing me towards something, the more I wanted to find my own direction. So I was watching. I was like, "Hey, I like this bald-headed guy. He's like doing these spin moves and dunking the ball." I was like, "I really like." And he turned around to me and goes, "No, you don't want to like him." I was like, "No, I really like what he's doing. That you don't want to like him. He's just a show off. He doesn't actually know how to play basketball. He'll never win anything." So, of course, that was me. Then I was sold. I loved Michael Jordan straight away just because I was told not to. I went out and I got Come Fly With Me on video.
Okay, yeah.
And I wore that tape out, man. That thing was threadbare by the time I was finished. And when I say video, I mean VHS now. You know, the old block tapes that used to go into the VCR recorders that a lot of people listening to might not even remember. So I went from Come Fly With Me to Playground to Airtime, and I watched the three of those religiously and fell in love with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls and started taking up the game a little bit more seriously, got my own hoop, and I went from somebody who didn't have a clue what to do to captaining my school team within a year and a half. So I kind of took to it quite quickly. So I loved playing it. I loved following it. Loved everything about it.
Wow. Yeah, that was like that's a big turn there, just from sparking an interest to captain of the team. I mean, that's a huge
I was always
accomplishment.
sporty.
Yeah,
I was always sporty. You see, so I kind of I was quick. I'm not too tall, but I was always fast and light on my feet, and it kind of suited basketball that I could make quick moves, quick decisive decisions on the floor. And yeah, I mean, basically, not to toot my own horn a little bit, but I kind of got lucky really, because when I went for the tryouts and in the second season, having been an absolute bench warmer in the first season I started playing, we were doing the tryouts, and there was a guy called Bernard who was on the team as well. He was a really good friend of mine, still is. And I took the ball out from the baseline from our own end and dribbled to the half court. Player came up towards me, defender came up towards me, and I whipped the ball behind my back right to him under the basket where he was standing from the half court. And nobody had ever seen me do anything like that before. And the next time up the court, I put a bounce pass between the defender's legs straight up to the same guy, Bernard, who was standing underneath the basket. And straight away, that was it. The coach called me over and said, "Where the hell did you practice all summer?" And I just said, "Just out the front of my house." And that was it. it kind of went from there, really.
So I have a feeling Josh Giddey got a hold of one of your old mixtapes, and that's why because he's be pulling out passes like that too.
Well, absolutely. Well, see, like I said, I absolutely absorbed basketball that year. Do you know, I really, really did. I threw myself, it fell in love with it, watched everything I could possibly watch, and just kind of added different aspects to my game. And because I wasn't never really kind of playing structured basketball, it was all the flair, it was all the and one type stuff,
Mm-hmm. Globetrotters.
So, yeah, all that kind of. So I never really knew how to play structured basketball for my first couple of seasons, but I had to learn quite fast. And I coach now as well, so fundamentals are a big thing for me now, but they very much weren't when I first started playing.
I'm glad we still have people who still care about fundamentals instead of. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people understand. Like nowadays, the NBA is. It seems like it's more flash than fundamentals, and well. I don't want to speak broadly, but it seems like fundamentals are quickly going to the wayside. So it's very appreciated to know that we're still teaching the basics of, you know what I mean?
Well, like Adam Silver said, it's a highlights league, right?
Yes. And if you can't afford to watch the games, you have YouTube or however that went. Do you have a favorite position? I mean, on the court, as far as like, for me, usually I'll gravitate more towards, my favorite players are typically your guards. I mean, I go back and forth. Typically guards. I was a big power forward fan back in the early 90s because that was a powerful position. But more recently, I've been more of a point guard, shooting guard. So what was your favorite guard or position rather?
Yeah, point guard all the way. I played point and always loved and appreciated the point guard position. I think it's such a shame that position has evolved to a point where it's almost redundant in the NBA now. That's why to see a player like Josh Giddey doing what he's doing and playing the way he plays, I really appreciate it and I really enjoy watching it. It's why I loved Lonzo Ball when we first took him as well, because he was one of very few actual point guards, true point guards in the NBA. And look, I understand that the game has to evolve, but there's certain aspects of each position that you can't blend them entirely. They have to still be a position within the game of basketball. And point guard is one that I think is important to kind of not let go of. I'd like to see it kind of become more and more of a position that's revered more than it is right now within the NBA.
I'm glad you said it, because a lot of people nowadays don't really take the appreciation that what the point guard was back in the day. Back in the day, it wasn't just the guy that put up 20 plus points, a night. It was your point guard was lucky to have 12, 14 points a night, but he was dishing out 10 assists, 12 assists a night. He was the floor general, putting you in your position. He was more or less a chess master. Whereas now,
100%.
And again, not criticizing the game now, it's just evolved, like you said. Whereas now it's more of a, correct me, and you could jump in, correct me if I'm wrong. It's more of your point guard's almost one of your best players. If he doesn't have a shot, he passes it. You know what I mean? He's more the flashy one. So
yeah, absolutely. It's kind of gone from having a point guard and a shooting guard now to having two combo guards, and that's kind of the way the game has gone. Which is why I really do appreciate someone like Josh Giddey or someone like Lonzo Ball, or to go back a little bit further, the likes of like White Chocolate, Jason Kidd.
Yes,
players like that, like you say, they take the thinking out of the game for the other players on the floor, because they do all the brain work for them, and they put the ball right in the pocket where it needs to be, and they orchestrate the game. And that's what I always loved about the game. That's how I played the game. And I didn't care if I went out and scored 2 points in a game, but if I could help somebody else score 10 points and somebody else score 10 points, that's 20 points in my bag as far as I'm concerned.
That's a noble way to look at it. Instead of getting your own accolades, just whatever you can do to help facilitate a win. That's a very underappreciated quality as well. Before we move on to SeeRed, what was your fondest memory of basketball, albeit player or just...
As in what I've witnessed on the floor, as in like what I've watched of basketball?
Yeah. What would be your favorite NBA memory?
To be honest, I think my favorite NBA memory would be from watching the game would probably be when we beat the Phoenix Suns in '93, because I had a group of my friends over at the house, and normally I'd be watching the games on my own because they're at stupid o'clock over here. But I had a group of friends over. We'd had a few drinks, or we were having a few drinks. I won't tell you how old I was at the time, but we were having a few sneaky drinks while my parents were asleep. And when we won the game, we went crazy. And I know full well my friends just got caught up in the whole whirlwind of it all because they didn't really care about basketball the way I did. And we ended up going out at whatever time it was, 3 o'clock in the morning, running through the streets, jumping into bushes and hedges and just celebrating the win. And that was one of those moments because I got to celebrate with others instead of just me sitting on the couch at home.
Yeah. It's honestly, I think the best part about basketball and even content creation, but maybe just basketball in its purest form, is just being able to celebrate and communicate with other people. You know, it's more fun when you have a community to talk about, like our Discord or your Discord. It was just a great place to be because you meet a bunch of great people to share these memories with. So
For sure.
I want to move on to SeeRedUK because, like I said, for me, that was the OG. We'll say that was for me. I was dumbfounded. I was impressed. I was mesmerized that the Chicago Bulls made it overseas. You know, because my family are Italian. I've been to Italy a bunch of times, but as far as basketball is concerned, they knew just Michael Jordan. That's it. There was not really a following of people that watched the games. And you and at the time your host, Matt, we'll shout him out, Matt.
Yep.
You guys not only watched the games, but you stayed up all night watching them at, like you said, stupid hours of the night. So it really gained my appreciation, respect that not only does our right now currently mediocre team gain such a good following, but from overseas and dedication that you have, it was incredible. So instantly from that day, I was hooked. But more specifically, when did you found SeeRedUK?
Yeah. Okay. Well, what happened was, like, it's right off the back of what you were saying there. I watched the games on my own for years, and every now and then my wife might stay up and watch the first half and then go to bed tired. But for the most part, it was me sitting on the couch watching the games on my own. And that's once I had League Pass, right? Before that, I would be scouring the internet for highlights after the games. And this is a really sad thing to admit, but what I used to do was I would actually sit there with first of all with teletext. I don't know if you remember teletext, if you had that in the States. It was basically just a page that would go over your TV screen, and you would put in a certain number for sports, a certain number for basketball, and it would load up this sheet, and it would literally just update the score every 2 minutes. So I would sit there watching just the score line refresh every 2 minutes. And that was how I used to watch basketball for a long time. So I would literally be doing that, just watching this score. You're getting no play-by-play. You're getting no idea who scored the baskets. You're just literally watching the score tick over. So that was where it first went because after the 90s, the amount of accessibility to Bulls basketball was pretty minimal. But, you know, we had dial-up internet. So you could find stuff, but it wasn't live. It was always the day after you might get some stuff, and you'd sit there for your 20 minutes waiting for a 3-minute reel to load up because the dial-up was so slow. So as the internet has increased and got better, it's really opened up my world to the Chicago Bulls so much more. So now being able to sit up and watch the games from start to finish live is magical to me. And I appreciate it so much. And when I hear people complaining about League Pass, because it can be glitchy, it can be, but trust me, compared to what I used to have, it is diamond. And so I love it. I absolutely love the fact that I can watch all 82 games. And the only time I ever miss a game is if I have to work. If I'm caught up with work and I just can't watch it. And even then, when I'm in the office, I have it on in the background. So at least I can be kind of catching up with as much as I can. But for the most part, I try to catch as close to 82 games as I can in a season. So far, I'm on 100% this year. Last year, I think I missed 1 game. The year before that, I missed 2 games. The year before that, I missed 5 or 6 games. But Matt used to watch all of them because he'd be in his truck. So once he had League Pass, he used to watch every single game, all 82. And you get a real appreciation for it when you couldn't do that for a long time. And watching the games live, for me, is so different to watching highlights the following day. The nuances that you miss in a game, in a player, stats don't always give you a real look into a game and how it was played. And for me, I'm a big believer in the eye test. So that's why I try to watch as many stupid o'clock as I can.
Right, you are, because I found myself in many disagreements with people that, and not even a negative disagreement. It's, you can tell when somebody watches the game just by how they interact. We'll have, I mean, you probably have the same Twitter feed that I do, all Chicago Bulls, and that there's those people that will say, we'll just use him as an example, like Julian Phillips is not good and all that. But it's like, if you watch the game, Julian Phillips does more than just put up stats. Sometimes being a presence is more than just stats. So really, just like yourself, I look beyond the stat sheet and I look at what does that player bring to the table as far as his overall presence. So very, very, very good way of looking at it, like I do. We mentioned before Matt. I don't know if I'm sure he'll be listening to this. So again, we'll shout you out again, Matt. How did you and Matt meet? Because correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are in different countries of the UK, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not even in the UK. I'm in Ireland and he's in England in the UK. What happened was, I'd be watching the games late at night, and one of my really good friends that I used to play basketball with in England, I'd often send him messages hoping he might be up watching it, because he'd watch some of the games. And every now and then I'd get a text message back saying he was watching it, but most of the time it would fall on deaf ears. And I think I got to a point where I was probably annoying him, texting him at 2 or 3 in the morning. So he sent me a message and he said, look, there's this group on Facebook, and it's worth having a look at because they kind of do a game feed. So I joined that group, and it just so happened to be what evolved into SeeRedUK, and Matt was running it. It was all his brainchild. He'd set it up on Facebook off the back of The Last Dance and the popularity that kind of invigorated. So it went from there to kind of he asked if anybody was interested in kind of getting more involved in the group. So I was like, well, look, I'm here. I'm happy to help out any way I can. And that just kind of evolved more and more, and I became more involved in the group, and we have a fantasy league, and we were always in there and having good fun with some of the guys on there. And I'm sure you've seen a couple of them have migrated over to the Bulls HQ Discord since we closed our one down. And anyone that's not in the Bulls HQ Discord should check it out. Guilty does a fantastic job in there. It's so active. I know you're in there yourself.
I love that Discord.
And yeah, it's great. It has everything. So what was I saying? Sorry. Yeah, so I got involved. So we had the Discord as well, and like the likes of Gary and Wayne and Rob, they've all moved across now as well. So shout out to those guys. But then someone suggested to us, well, look, why don't you do a podcast? There wasn't a huge amount of them at that time. There was like 4 or 5 kind of big ones, and it would have been interesting to see a perspective from our side of the world. So we kind of set it up for 2 other guys to do it, right? And at the very last minute, one of those guys pulled out entirely. So Matt said, look, I don't mind jumping in, but Neill, will you jump in with me? So the 2 of us jumped in and done it with a 3rd guy who subsequently didn't realize how much work was going to be involved in it and pulled out after about 5 episodes. And that left me and Matt on our own. And we weren't even the 2 that were meant to be doing it. And we ended up sticking with it for almost 5 years. So absolutely loved it. Loved chatting with Matt. He's a miserable sod, but I love him anyway. And we always kind of thought the same way about the game in regards to the way players played and decisions that were or weren't made and everything like that. We were quite similar minded that way, but at the same time we also differed in a lot of ways as well. So I think that kept it spicy and kept it interesting. And then Matt decided that he'd had enough of it. He was getting a lot of pressure from home. He was getting a lot of illness and sickness and tiredness because he's a truck driver as well. So he was like driving for 10, 12, sometimes 14-hour days, getting very little sleep, and then having to get back up to record a pod or to watch the games. And he done so much stuff online as well. He wasn't getting a break, and he just burnt out, I think. And it got to that point where he was like, look, I kind of need to step away. So I said, well, look, do you mind if I keep going myself? and he loved that idea. So he left me going on my own, managed probably about 8 months, 9 months entirely on my own. But it got to a stage where I was like, okay, I don't really like recording the pods on my own. And you were kind enough to come on a couple of pods with me as well. And I just got to the point where I was like, do you know what? I need something new. And that's why I decided I was going to step away. And I was going to try and see out the year. And it was actually Matt who said to me, why delay the inevitable? If you're ready to pull now, why don't you just go for it now? So I did. I decided that's it. Now I was going to go to the All-Star game. I was going to take it as far as the All-Star game, and then I just thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna pull the plug and see how it's received by people. And I have to say, the outpouring of love and appreciation and well wishes from people both in America and the UK, and as far as Australia, France, Brazil, it has been mind blowing how much people have reached out to me on a personal level and kind of said, look, we're really sad you're finished, but we're really glad you're not going away completely. So that means a lot. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I fit the mold of those people, because when I saw it, like we said at the beginning of the show, SeeRedUK was the first show that we gravitated towards. And again, it was because of that fascination of you guys had an interesting background of just following a sport that, I mean, I would say, is basketball even very prevalent in Ireland and London? I'm assuming it's more soccer, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very much so. Especially in England, it's very much soccer and rugby. That would be kind of probably the two main sports. In Ireland, it's soccer is fairly big. Rugby's bigger. And then we have our Irish national games, which are hurling and Gaelic football, which are huge here in Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look into those.
I tell you, you might find this interesting then, okay? Both of those sports are amateur games, right? But they are the biggest sports in the country. And you would, if you came over here and you watched a game and you saw the way it is supported, you would never believe that they are not professional sports. These guys all have full-time jobs, and yet they're still going out and they're playing both hurling and football over here throughout the seasons. And they're both very high-level, energetic, physical games. Hurling is actually the fastest field sport in the world.
Really?
Yep. It would be like a cross between rugby, football, and lacrosse.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It's a great game.
Yeah, I always like finding new sports, and so I'm gonna have to look up a few highlights and look at, because there's so much, much like basketball is not prominent over there, but you found it and loved it. I'd love to see if I could find a sport like that from elsewhere, because my second sport, as much as the Bears have been doing phenomenal lately, my second sport will forever be Italian soccer. I'm a big SeeRedUK guy. So, but of course, over here, unless you have, a particular streaming source and pay $20-$30 a month, you're not getting too many of the games. So unfortunately, I'm with you, where if I want to watch a Juventus game, which is my team, I'm following along the little soccer ball on the ESPN app. So
yeah, there you go.
So, but again, SeeRedUK, it had more of a brand than a show, and that's what we loved about it, because not only did it come with updates about the team, you had your own Discord that we all went in there and chat. So it felt like it was a brand more than anything. And, you guys were kind enough to get us featured on there. It was our first collab, and we were all nervous going into it, because we're like, wow, we've never collabed with anyone here. Me and my friends, I think we had only released 2 or 3 episodes by that point. So we're very new in the podcast game. I reached out to you. You and Matt were both very graciously nice enough to invite us onto the show. And once you get accepted in the community, it's like a breath of fresh air. You feel like, oh man, people want us on their show. People like us. That was one of the funnest episodes we did. And again, you guys were super nice about it. So just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, we really appreciate what you guys did, not just to the Bulls community, but just to the genuine people that you were, especially the kindness of the Bulls community. It can be kind of love and hate sometimes,
It can. No, well, I appreciate you saying that. And that was kind of when we first started out. that was one of our kind of USPs, was that we were an open forum for anyone that wanted to get involved. And anytime we saw people trying to kind of do what we were doing or expand or get involved in the content creation game, we were always there to give advice if we could give it, get involved with each other if that's what we were looking at. And it was great being able to do that with you guys from the start, and we've always kept an eye on you ever since, and I'm sure that goes both ways, and you've created a brand for yourselves exactly the same way we tried to. You have great logos, great brand, great image going on, and I wish you all the best that it will keep going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, it was like we mentioned with, how much time and effort. You really don't realize how much time and effort goes into the podcast side of it. Like, the games are the easiest part, because all you have to do is watch the game. It's after the game when you create that content, when you got to report on it, you got to, that's the hard part. So, and I'm not going to lie, there were a few times where us three were like, is this worth continuing? Is this worth, is this, worth the hours that we put in? It's like, and we all kind of unanimously decided, yeah, of course it is. This is fun. In the end of the day, we're just three best friends talking about basketball. Whether people watch us or not, we still get to come on, meet once a week, and talk about basketball, something we love. Now that SeeRed is over, and I hate saying that. It hurts to say that even now. We mentioned you moved on to different endeavors here. I'll let you have the floor for this one. You want to tell us what you've moved on to and where we can find that show at? Because I was lucky enough to be featured on this show. So
yes,
go right ahead.
It was a great show, actually. It was a great show.
It was a great show.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite shows that we've done so far. Yeah, what I suppose before I get into that, I have to lay out a little bit of background story to go with this. And
yeah,
like you said, we meet different people doing this and being involved in this game, and we met you guys, yourself and myself have been in contact many a time. We've been on your show, you've been on our show, and you've been on my more recent endeavor as well, like you mentioned. So one of the guys that I managed to link in with and meet and have built a really good friendship with is Philip Charles van der Hayden IV. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful, but so is he, right? he doesn't stop talking. He's like myself. He likes to talk. He's
that
great.
Guy. Shout out Phil.
and yeah, shout out Phil. Myself and PCV the fourth, or Philly the fourth, as he's going with his Chicago Bulls Breeze or Windy City Breeze, which is his new thing that he's doing with Pat the designer. He came to me and he said, Neill, would you be interested in putting together a super panel of content creators from around the world? Because he was blown away by the fact that, like you were saying, we're based in the UK, and I don't know if you know Troy Wingate from Whole Lotta Bull.
Whole Lotta Bull, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. He was on the show with us as well. So Troy, he's in Australia, and Phil said, look, this is the three corners of the globe, that we can put together in one panel, and bring in a couple of other guys as well if they're interested, and have guest speakers from around the content community of Bulls Nation, and put it all together as like this large super panel that we can dip into different people and have the staple of America, the UK and Ireland, and Australia, and call it Bulls Without Borders, because we are from around the globe. So that was the brainchild, that was the idea, that was the spark, and it's come together really quickly. It's come together really well. I'm very proud of it, and all I do is turn up and talk. Apart from that, I've put together a few hype videos, but aside from that, it's been mainly Phil doing the work, Hayes from Chicago Bulls Central.
Shout out.
He does our thumbnails. He's jumped on a couple of episodes and will be jumping on more in the future. Jamal from Bulls Central, he's been on an episode. He's planning on being on more of them as well. You've been on an episode. Guilty from the Bulls HQ has been on there. Obviously, myself and Troy are on there as well. And everybody that's got involved seems to be really enjoying it. And we even had our first proper guest speaker, not just someone from the content creation world, in Tim Sinclair there a few weeks ago. I would go so far as to say at this stage, I'm very lucky to be able to say that I've made a real connection with Tim over the years. He was our very first guest on SeeRedUK as well. I've kept in contact with him. I meet him anytime I'm in the States as well. I'd like to call him a friend at this stage. I don't know if he considers me one, but as far as I'm concerned, he's a friend of mine. And to have that is awesome. Have on occasion sent him messages during games, and he's always gracious enough to send me a message back when he's sitting courtside watching the Bulls game, calling the game, and I get a text message from the guy that's doing that. It still to this day blows my mind. So that was great having him on. We hope to get more guests on as well from within the Bulls organization. I think we are offering something different that's not out there at the moment by doing what we're doing, which is not an easy thing to do because it's become quite a saturated market, as you know. So I'm thrilled to be a part of that. I'm thrilled that you've been a part of it as well. And hopefully it will keep growing going forward.
Yeah, thank you. Immediately when I saw this show, I knew it was going to be a hit because it was, like you said, it was something different. Because that was the thought process that was going into our three heads going into it. It was more of a, how do we make this show less of a stat-packed like ESPN update for an hour and rather just a show people can turn on and listen to. Yeah, we obviously we talk Bulls and we do our research and everything goes in. But again, like I said in shows of the past, if anyone wants to know stats or news about the Bulls, they're probably not turning on the podcast. They're probably going to Twitter. They're probably going to ESPN. They're not going to turn on an amateur podcast to find the news. The thing is, be different and find a way to make it more entertaining as far as make it a sit-down show like Chigo, those boys, HGO, how they do it. That's what we wanted to go for more or less. So, and Bulls Without Borders, it is unique because it is insane that you are three people from three ends of the continent, the globe, and you find the time to meet in a common time that's reasonable for everyone. I have two guests that, we all have different schedules, and getting them all together is a chore. And we live, 2-3 miles from each other. You guys are on opposite ends of the earth, and you still find a way to meet and talk Bulls. So if you're listening and you haven't checked it out, please go check out Bulls Without Borders. It's an insane product. And I called it, I compared it to like the Godfather, the scene of the Godfather where you got the five heads of family all coming together and talking at once, because that's what it felt like. You guys hit it on the head. You guys had the best of the best featured on your show. You had Hayes, Tim Sinclair, voice of the, we can go on and on and on, but it was just an entertaining, and it's a great project, and I cannot wait to see it evolve and get more popularity, and it will get more popularity.
I hope so. I think it will. I think it offers something new, and like I say, that's hard to do in this market right now. So hopefully it continues to grow. And please do check it out, and no doubt we'll have yourself, Sal, on with us again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what product it comes. We've, like the saturation wise, like you said, I've seen shows pop up, do a couple episodes, and then go to the wayside. And the fact that you creating content that's going to last, I cannot wait. I can't emphasize enough. I can't wait to see what this becomes, because I see this having the potential to be huge, and
Hopefully.
People just don't understand how huge this can be. So, Neill, thank you so much for shedding some background on your history and how you came to be the in love with basketball fan that you are. Because this is a Bulls podcast, we thought that we're not going to let the listeners go without mentioning at least something from this current Bulls era. And so I'm going to ask you about the season as a whole. We'll gravitate towards the Bulls right now. How would you grade the season so far? Has they met your expectations? Have they fell short of expectations? Have they exceeded them?
Depends on what week we're talking about, really.
Yes.
Yeah, right, okay. To take it back to the start of the season, they absolutely exceeded my expectations. And then when we went on that losing streak, they absolutely disappointed my expectations. And now kind of where they are now, it's kind of at a bit of a plateau, and it's pretty much bang on where I kind of expected them to be. A lot of people were very, very down on the team at the start of the season. I wasn't. I don't think they're world beaters, far, far from it. But I do think that they had made an improvement on where they were a season, 2 seasons ago. And some people didn't think that was the case, but that's where I was. So they are at that now. Unfortunately, because of that big losing streak and that big stretch that they went through where they couldn't buy a bucket or a game or a win, playing the absolute dregs of the NBA, because of that now, they're on the back foot. I do think that they're going to get above 500 just about. Whether they manage to retain it, I don't know, but they're going to be in and around that 500 mark. And I had them at 42-40 on the season when I done my prediction. So they're kind of not too far off that if they keep going the way they're going. They seem to be able to step it up against the bigger teams. They seem to lose their way against the lesser teams, whether that's because they play down to competition as they've been accused of doing, or whether that's because the lesser competition, as it were, step up to the Bulls because they think, okay, they're not top tier, but they're beatable. And they bring their A game then and beat us. I don't know what it is exactly, but it needs to stop. They need to lock in for those games that are more winnable, but they also need to continue locking in the way they are against the bigger teams and the better teams. So to answer your question, I think they're pretty much where I expected them to be right now. And I do think that when we are fully healthy, and that is the caveat, when we are fully healthy, we can go out there and beat absolutely any team in the NBA and look good doing it. And the reason why we can do that is because our superpower is bench depth. And if we don't have our full squad, our superpower is gone. So right now, illness and injury to any player in that chain, in that link all the way through, is like kryptonite right now, because that's what we need. We need a full squad in order to be the whole part that we are that can beat teams.
I couldn't have put it any better myself. I know the kind of the common word this season has been injury. And, you know, a lot of Bulls fans are, you know, hanging their heads, you know, hey, you know, this is another season of disappointment. But in reality, it really hasn't been, because like you said, at the beginning of the year, they showed signs of being amongst the best, you know, and then they fell into their groove. We had that 6-game losing streak. We had another 5-game win streak. But the one thing people forget to understand is we played very few games as a fully healthy team. I would love to see this team. Very few. I mean, I want to say if we played more than 5 games as a fully healthy squad,
I think apart from Noah Essengay, I think 6 maybe is what I heard. But yeah. That could be wrong. Either way, it's not much. It's not many.
Yeah. So I would love to see what this squad looks like fully healthy. Although, you know, I know we're asking for a lot when we say we just don't want injuries to be a factor in the season, and I get that. But it's a shame because I would love to. Again, I'll reiterate, I'd love to see what this team could accomplish if injuries weren't a factor. I totally agree with you. What would you do to make this better? Because I know we're going to segue into the trade here, and trade rumors rather. But what would you do to make this current squad better?
Okay, so I think most people, the instant answer would be we need a superstar, right? And yes, that is an obvious direction to take. And would I like to see a superstar playing on this team? Absolutely, of course I would. But I wouldn't want to sacrifice and sell the farm in order to get it, because I think what we're building is the foundation of something good. Yes, we need a few pieces to fall into place, but we are young. We're a young squad. We're a team that seems to enjoy playing with each other when they're out there on the floor. They seem to have chemistry off the floor as well. And all that stuff is stuff that you can't teach that stuff. That's either there or it isn't. So I think that what we really need to do is to go back to these fundamentals again. I think we need a fundamentally sound defensive big. Because right now we don't have one. We have 2 players who are very, very good off the bench, who bolster the team and make a difference on defense and offense when they come on the floor, in Zach Collins and Jalen Smith. But Nikola Vucevic, as much as I appreciate who he is and what he is as a player, who he is and what he is as a person, he ain't it for this team. He is not what this team needs to take that next step. So for me, I think we need to go out and we need to get ourselves a better starting five, not starting five as in the whole team, as in a better starting center. I realized how that sounded when I said it. A better starting center than we have in Nikola Vucevic, because I think we get flurries and little moments from him, but we don't get consistency from him from game to game. And it's only going to get less and less if we re-sign him. And the question is, and the problem is who do you go out and get to replace him? Because there isn't a pool out there of available players that fit that bill. And that's the issue, and that's the problem that we see in front of us.
Yeah, it's sad when, we've said it before, Vooch, if he's checked out or if he's just on the decline or combination thereof, we already recognize, it's time to move on from. We should probably find a better starting five. But the question is, who do you get? Even a Nikola Vucevic at this stage of the game, he's still one of the better centers in the Eastern Conference right now. You know what I mean? And the sad part is he still can put up those numbers, but the problem is he does it at such an inconsistent schedule. One day he'll put up 20 and 15 and he'll look like a superstar. He'll hit a game winner the next game, but the next 3-4 games he's getting, 6 rebounds, 7 rebounds. And as your starting center, you need to get a double-digit rebounds every night. That's just my personal opinion. But, love him or hate him, Vooch is Vooch. That's Vooch is Vooch.
Vooch is what we have.
So I want to gravitate. We mentioned, coming out and shaking up the lineup a little bit, and we've heard many a trade rumors here circulating around Coby White, and I'm going to use that one as my example because the other ones, I really don't take much validity in the trade talks for Zion, the trade talks for, even the Kuminga trades are a little bit far-fetched for my taste. Tell me, what would you think is the most realistic trade that you can see the Bulls making this year?
I'm not overly convinced they're going to make a trade this year.
Okay, good. I share that.
That's the issue, I guess, because I just don't see AK looking at the state of the NBA and looking at the state of this team and saying, I have a solution. I think he will sit back and go, we're doing okay. This team could do something. Yeah, it can do something if we make some tweaks, maybe. And it can do something over the course of a few seasons. But right now, I don't think it's there yet. And I think that's blatantly obvious. But I don't think it's blatantly obvious to AK, and that's the problem. I think as far as his boss is concerned, bums are on seats, money's being made. Yuki Mania is about to kick off again, which is going to get him a lot of jersey sales. And,
I can't wait.
Yeah, and that's all that matters to the hierarchy. So as far as AK is concerned, his job is safe. So I think he's afraid to take risks now at this stage because, in fairness, he did take a punt and it imploded through no fault of his own. It just didn't work out. And then some of the turns that were taken along the way have been underwhelming. And I unfortunately think that that's what we'll continue to see for another while. I think it'll be underwhelming again. It's going to be a case of let's ride out this season as we are and make decisions at the back end of the season. And at that stage, the trade window's closed. So, there's so many players that are on contract years and they're going to have to make a decision as to whether or not they want to be clever with their expiring contracts or whether or not they want to just leave them expire and deal with it in the off season, which is what I think he'll do.
Yeah, well said. Honestly, because like you alluded to earlier, when AK first got here, he didn't sit on his hands. He came out with a bang. He went out and got your DeMar DeRozan, your Lonzo Ball, and there for a while, for 30 games, the Bulls were top of the Eastern Conference, and we were looking like a legitimate threat to make a splash. So I don't discredit his ability to trade, because the Zach LaVine trade, I know people weren't a big fan of it initially, but I will wager that we got the better of that deal with three
100%.
With three very good athletes that, a lot of people just look to them as role players, and Kevin Huerter establishing himself as as a threat and dipping into that starting role. Zach Collins becoming the up and coming, dare I say it, he could be the starting center for this team. And Trey Jones, who in lieu of Josh Giddey going down, he stepped up and played phenomenal basketball, and he plays the point guard purely like you and I both were discussing earlier. So, and then watching the train wreck that's going on in Sacramento with Zach LaVine, it's like, all right, I trust AK trading. I think that we as Bulls fans also need to have a bit of patience, and I think we're just quick to want change so bad that we cast it aside when we don't get what we want.
Yeah, definitely. It's an all or nothing fan base for sure. Definitely. Unfortunately, you do have to, as you said there, that trigger word of patience, you do have to show a little restraint and patience at times. And it's not something that we as Bulls fans are accustomed to, but we should be because we haven't seen anything really successful since 2009. And, we need to accept the fact that this team needs a lot of work, and it's not just going to land in our lap. And at the same time, it's not going to happen overnight. It needs restructuring. It needs retooling. It needs to be broken down in areas and rebuilt back up in others. And that's not something that AK or anybody would be able to come in and do. And like you say, he did come in and overhaul the roster. I mean, what do we have? We had 3 players that stayed when he first overhauled the roster, and everything else was a sellout, completely gone, and bring in new players. So like you say, he wasn't afraid to try back then, but I think the fact that that didn't work out the way he had hoped and planned, because that put them kind of on the back foot, because they used up all of their resources to get that, he's kind of seems to be reluctant and afraid to do that again, I think. But I'd love to see AK just bite the bullet and take another big swing before his time is up with the Bulls, and just see, does it get him anywhere?
Yeah. So you and I both said that, we it sounds like we pretty much, I don't want to say we pretty much, but we're fairly confident in his ability to trade. His ability to draft has come as head scratching at times. We'll just say that. Cue in your Patrick Williams, cue in your, even now more recently, there's been people criticizing the Noah Senge draft selection, which we have not had the time to see this young man in full bloom yet. So I know everyone wants Derek Queen because he's the solution right now, but AK has gotten kind of a bad rap for drafting. Do you trust his ability to draft at this moment, given we have 2 picks in this upcoming draft and we have a plethora of talent coming up? Do you trust his ability to select the right player?
Do you know, the pocket that I don't trust him in is from about the 4th pick to the 10th pick. I think he kind of gets a little bit lost in the mud there, but he seems to be able to do quite well with later picks. Obviously, it was a no-brainer when Matas fell to 11. It was an absolute no-brainer for him. The guy's from Chicago, the guy's Lithuanian, the guy was at one point being touted as a number 1 pick. I mean, when he fell to the Bulls, it was brilliant. It was great. I don't think that took any kind of decision-making on his part. It was just okay, he's still there, get it. And it's working out and it's looking really good. But aside from that, some of those earlier picks and even picks like Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips, although he was a later pick, so I don't criticize that as much, but it's just the fact that he made a move to get that pick in order to get Julian Phillips. It was such a bold statement to make, and then Julian Phillips hasn't been quite as good as we would have liked, even though he's not as bad, like you say, as some people criticize him either. But I just feel like for me, I haven't seen him fail enough in the draft, but I haven't seen him succeed enough in the draft either, because there's kind of been a little bit of both. I would be interested, and obviously for many reasons, would like to see them get a higher pick. Normally the 1 and 2 pick is a no-brainer as well, but once it starts coming down to the 3rd and 4th pick, I'd like to see where he'd go with that, because I don't think he'd make another punt like he did with Patrick Williams at the 4. I still find that a real head scratcher, especially as I was all in on Patrick Williams for a long time because I thought he was going to develop into something. And that's obviously the way AK thought too. And it just didn't happen. But when you break it down and look back on it, what the hell were you expecting? You picked a bench player and expected him to be more than a bench player straight away. And we are, 6 years in? And the dude isn't just a bench player. He's an end of the bench player now. So it was a very poor pick. And I think they're measured off the back of that more than any other pick.
I agree. That's very well put, because for the life of me, and I'm sure if people listening to this, they want to comment, or if you know off the top of your head, feel free. But I don't really remember. I've watched basketball for many years. I don't remember the last time I saw a player who wasn't in the starting five of his college team going top 5 in the NBA. That's not something you typically see. I know we drafted him based on his potential, big hands. He was expected to be the next Kawhi Leonard, and it didn't pan out. But again, as much as we love to dislike Patrick Williams and we love to hate on him, that's not his fault. He didn't choose where he got drafted. No. Like we said earlier, if Patrick Williams would have been drafted later on, he would have been a steal. But the fact that he got drafted 4th overall, people overlook that. But also people don't understand that this man wasn't the next big thing at number 4. He was riding the bench. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because very few people realize that Patrick Williams was never expected to be the next big thing. He was just the guy. He was a contributor. Here's a loaded question before we move on. Loaded question. You have the number 1 overall pick. You are on the clock. You are the Bulls. You're the GM right now. Who are you taking in this year's draft? Who's one guy that you would love to see sporting a black and red next year?
Right. Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. We don't get much in the way of college basketball over here, so it's very hard to keep up with it. So normally when it starts getting closer to the draft, I start researching and looking at it more. So this is coming from a very much an amateur opinion, but I wouldn't mind seeing another booze cruise sail into Chicago. I wouldn't mind seeing Cameron Boozer come in with a decent hairstyle and hopefully not trip over his sports bag in his first week and what was he, sprained a toe or something. But yeah, exactly. So no, I'd love to see, from what I've seen of Cameron Boozer. Obviously, I looked at him because of the old Carlos Boozer connection, and I like what I see with him. And he's being touted to go top 3, I think, at least. Mm-hmm. So for now, I'll say Cam Boozer, but I do need to research that more.
Yeah, that was fun times back in, was it 2010, 2011? We just signed Carlos Boozer. Of course, we struck out with our big 3, our LeBron, our Dwayne Wade, our Bosh. We got our consolation prize of Boozer.
That's it.
He gets to Chicago, and what's the first thing he does? He gets a rather, I don't want to, again, I'm not putting words. I'm going to go off what the story says. He tripped over a bag and broke his hand, but just so happens he broke his hand.
Yeah, that was it.
It was this, but he broke his hand in the exact same manner that you would from forcibly using your hand to strike something. I will just say that because I've had a similar injury to him. I didn't trip over a bag to do so. I know what I did. I punched a wooden fence. I had a lot of anger issues as a kid, but it just so happened that these two injuries aligned. But and I do remember that Carlos had to sit out a few games because of that. And more infamously, I do remember his rather unorthodox shoe polish hairdo that he was sporting for a while. So having to see Cam Boozer with a full head of hair and nice like that, it's nice to see a Boozer that can model a hair commercial.
Was it? I actually really liked Carlos Boozer, right? I was impressed with him when he was in Utah, and I really liked him with the Bulls. I had a St. Patrick's Day green jersey with Carlos Boozer written on the back, partly because it made sense to have the Irish jersey with Boozer written on the back as well. But, I also did enjoy him as a player.
I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. That is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like before he even came to the Bulls, Boozer was always connected to being traded to the Bulls. He was always kind of like, you remember when Andre Kirilenko was linked to the Bulls, and players like, that 1 year Kobe was linked to the Bulls. They were always kind of in cahoots with Carlos Boozer. So what better consolation prize when you strike out than to get the guy that you were originally after? Much like your Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol was always linked to the Bulls and then eventually signed with us. So I was a big fan of the Boost too, mainly because he had a very clean mid-range shot. I love that mid-range shot. So,
Yeah, he did a nice stroke.
He did. Neill, thank you so much for being on. Before we go, I cannot let any guest on our show leave without playing a game of Horns or Thorns. If you're new to Horns or Thorns, it's basically a buy or sell, true, false. I give you 5 scenarios. If you agree with them, you say horns. If you disagree with them, you say thorns. If you're ready, we'll suit up.
Go for it.
All right, this first one, most loaded question is, Horns or Thorns, Kobe White is moved before the end of the season.
See, that could go either way, but I actually think Thorns on that one. I think he'll still be a Bull.
I like it. All right. Segues into Horns or Thorns number 2, and that is the Bulls make a major trade before the end of the deadline.
I say Thorns on that as well. Like I said earlier on, I actually think they're going to stand pat.
I agree with you 100%. Horns or Thorns number 3, the Chicago Bulls comfortably make the playoffs rather than a play-in spot.
Thorns as well. I think if they get in, it's going to be a scrape through. I'm just hoping it's going to be off the back of a 2-game play-in and not a 1-game play-in.
Yeah, and hopefully we don't meet up with Miami.
Yeah, although there's part of me as well that if we do get through to the playoffs proper, I'd love to do it by beating Miami, seeing as they have been the team that have stopped us every time. I just think there would be a real feeling of achievement by doing that.
Absolutely. Good point. Good point. This number 4 is well out of left field, but in lieu of Derrick Rose having his jersey retired in Chicago, Chicago will see number 1 forever. Derrick Rose comes back as an assistant coach to the Chicago Bulls at some point.
Do you know what? I'd love to see that, but I don't know if coaching is in his genetic makeup.
Yes.
I don't think he's that kind of character type. But I could very much see him coming back to the Bulls on an ambassador type role. So I'm going to say Thorns on that one.
Yeah, the only reason that spawned that question is there was a fake, I don't know if you saw it, it was all over the Twitter sphere. Around Christmas time, there was like a fake poster going around that the Bulls had hired Derrick Rose as an assistant coach. And much like you, I kind of found myself scratching my head like, what would that look like? Like, how would people react to that? Would that be more of an attempt to sell more tickets, or could that actually help? It's one of those, I'd love to see it, but would he actually love to coach? I think he's more comfortably moved on from basketball than we think. This last Horns or Thorns, this one, I made this one specifically for you, Phil, because I know you're going to be listening. Phil, as you know, one of the biggest Chicago Bears fans you'll ever meet. And as we know, we're coming off that huge win in the playoffs. Our arch nemesis, the Green Bay Packers. The Bears finally beat the Packers twice in one season. We had to do 3 games to do it, but 2 wins are 2 wins. So this next question is for you in respects to Phil, and that is Horns or Thorns. This is our year. The Chicago Bears win the Super Bowl.
I know very little about American football, I'll be honest. But I have to support my Chicago brethren and say, of course they're going to win the Super Bowl. Why wouldn't they?
There you go. I love it.
I also know, like I say, I know very little, but I also know that they're probably going to do it on the final play and get a touchdown to win the game in the dying seconds.
In typical Chicago fashion. It's funny because
right.
I hate to tell a little segue here, but we were watching the game at work the other day, and the Packers game, that is. And, there was, we were down, I believe it was 21-6 at one point, and it was like in the second or third quarter. And I'm like, we're going to win. Everyone of my colleagues is like all kicking the ground and cursing like, oh, this team, what the hell? I'm like, they're going to win. Don't worry. Well, what do you know? And I'm like, listen, when you've been a Bulls fan as long as I've been, you know that the game doesn't really start until the final 3 minutes of the game. So I've seen the Bulls come back from a 20-point deficit in, 8 minutes left of the game and win.
Mm-hmm.
So trust me, this Bears team still have time. Take it easy. Neill, as a reward for playing Horns or Thorns, you've won uninterrupted airtime to address the Bulls fans and the Horniacs as you wish. And I'd like to ask, you have a particular project coming up, if I'm not mistaken, don't you?
That's correct. Yeah, I do. And it's funny that you should mention Phil again there a few seconds ago, because this involves Phil also. We have decided that we're going to come up with a Bulls project together. So this is a bit of a scoop for you now, because I haven't really started putting this out there much at all. So it's going to be called the Sixth Banner Podcast. It's going to be a long form segmented podcast style. So we'll have regular segments that we're going to have throughout the course of each episode. It's going to be, I mean, for anyone that has listened to Phil in any capacity or listened to me in any capacity, we're both quite positive Bulls fans. We're both quite upbeat and try to look at the good rather than the bad as much as we possibly can, although we're not afraid to address the bad as well. And we are going to try and bring that into that podcast to be exciting, fun, and we're looking for a lot of laughs, a lot of enjoyment in that way, and just to try and keep the levity high in what can sometimes be a very challenging 82 game season as a Bulls fan. So we're going to try and keep everything upbeat. And that will be coming in mid-February, probably the week after All-Star Game. We'll be releasing our first episode. There'll be a few kind of hype videos, and we'll start setting things up to build the brand, because, as you know, that's what we did with SeeRedUK. So it's what you've done with Horns Over Hoops. And we will be looking to do that as well, to try and create a bit of a brand with the Sixth Banner as well. So look out for that. And for anyone that is on the SeeRedUK handle on Twitter, that's going to be migrating across to my own personal handle over the course of the next 5 or 6 days. And from there, then I will be expanding from that onto the Sixth Banner. So keep your eyes peeled and come and follow me there so that you don't miss out.
We're excited to. I'm already excited here. That's a hell of a title. I love that. Yeah. I love the idea of the name, the Sixth Banner, because that's a very mysterious and alluring name. Where did that come from?
Well, we like to talk, both myself and Phil. As anyone that knows us or listens to any of our stuff will see, and anyone that listens to this will see, I like to talk. So we threw a bit of a brainstorming session together and kind of bounced about a load of different ideas and names, and we decided that we wanted to, like I say, we were upbeat. We wanted to celebrate the good things that this team has done. And they've got 6 banners, right? So we've got 6 banners for 6 titles. And we tempted to call it the 7th Banner Podcast, but we didn't want to tempt fate. So we just said we go with the celebration of the 6, call it the 6th Banner Podcast. And even if we win more, we'll probably just stick with the 6th. But yeah, that's where it came from. We've got a pretty cool logo coming out too to go with it. And I was toying around with putting in together some intro music this evening, kind of making my own to give us a bit of an intro. And yeah, I think it's going to come together nicely. And like I say, it will be like you've done and like we did with SeeRedUK. It will be trying to build a bit of a brand with this one. So we'll see how it goes.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I'm glad you got some good music in the works, because I was a big fan of your intro of SeeRedUK. I actually watched that evolve over the times.
Yeah.
And the last one with the flames and the highlights and the announcers, like, that got you pumped up, ready to go. I mean, I remember it because when I was a guest, I filled in for Matt that one time. You played it, and I was already pumped and ready to get the interview going. But then just hearing the intro play out, it just put you over the top. So I cannot wait to hear that music for the 6th Banner. And best of luck to you. I cannot wait for this to come out. I'm a big Bulls content consumer, man. The more Bulls content, the better, and especially from great producers like you and Phil and the rest of the community. It just makes my anticipation that much more sky high. So best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
So Neill, I don't really do this very often, but we've reached the sad part of the show where we got to end it and wrap it all up. And normally I would say, don't forget to see Red, go Bulls. But because I was such a big fan of your show, and I want you to be able to, if you're willing, if you're not willing to 100% understand, I want you to sign off as SeeRedUK. One more final sign off, because I just pay respects to one of my favorite shows.
Okay, fair enough. Until next time, I've been Neill. Wherever you are in the world, you've been Sal. Wherever you are in the world, see red, bleed red. Go Bulls.
Awesome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.